The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me, Matt? Are you there, Matt? Good morning, Ann. Can you hear me? I think you're muted, Ann, as well as you, Matt.
Yeah, all the attendees, of course, are muted unless you unmute them.
Oh, I've unmuted them.
Perfect.
Yep. And help me to pronounce this. Did I, if I got it incorrect, is it Quasi? And we've got Shirley is joining us. Hello, Ann. Can you hear me?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Yes, I can.
Perfect. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How's everyone doing?
Doing well. Doing well.
Good.
And Matt, can you hear me okay? Well, everyone, we're going to get started in about 4 minutes. At about 5 minutes after, we still have some people logging in. I want to make sure that everyone's had a chance to connect their audio and do their last minute, technical, addressing their technical issues. I know that sometimes individuals have a few things to kind of familiarize themselves with when it comes to this platform, GoToWebinar platform. So we will once again get started here in about 3 minutes at 5 minutes after. And yeah, we'll have ourselves a good webinar.
Hey, Ron, if I may intervene real quick, just let the people know, like if they click on the, if they look at the panes on the screen, their sidebar with regards to the menu items, they'll see like a pane called handouts.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if they click on the arrow to the left of the word handouts, the one pointing to the word, and they click on that arrow, it'll expand that window. They have a handout that they can actually click on. It'll open it as a PDF on their desktop, and they can save that for reference through today's webinar, as well as for future use.
Outstanding. Yes, they sure can. And Richard has joined us. Richard, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, and Matt says, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right, a couple of more minutes and we'll get started here. Good morning, Jasmine. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay? You're self-muted, Jasmine.
Now, you know I'm slow, but yes, I hear you.
Good morning.
And
Good
yes, I
morning.
see everything. How's it going? Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Jasmine.
Morning.
I forgot we're supposed to have fun here.
That's right.
We're supposed to have fun for sure. Absolutely, guys.
Okay, well, it is 5 after. We will go ahead and get started. I want to thank everyone today for joining us for our part 2 of our Working with the VA workshop series. Our speaker today is Tart Maraba, who has worked for the Department of Veteran Affairs Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization as a subcontractor for several years. In that role, Tarek served as the lead analyst on strategic outreach and communication, and led the team in training. Tarek has trained over 7,000 small businesses through webinars, procurement conferences, and in-classroom training. So without further ado, Tarek, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us, partnering with us to bring this next stage training to all of us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Abron. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you all for joining us today. Yes, as Abron was saying, you know, it's a absolute gem to be partnered with the VetBiz Central and the SBA's VBOC in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana with regards to servicing the veteran community and the small business community. The point of allowing this partnership is to bringing new and advanced training to the business community in terms of just my experience.
Muted. Unmuted.
My experience having been with I'm going to turn off my video here. So there we go. So, to be able to share my experience in training the small business community through the small business office at the VA. So as Abron said, for 6 years, I was the trainer with regards to training and education. And when I started, I was tasked with, hey, write the information with regards to training the small business community. We really, we have this vision, we have this directive, and we want to do this, but we don't have anything in place. And so I was blessed with that task because it allowed me to learn the process from the ground up. So when we talk about the capability statement today, is anyone in the background, please just mute your mic, just in case there's any loud noises in the background. With regards to bringing this training to you, it's based on the foundation. So when I was blessed with having this conversation, when they brought in teaming with the VetBiz Central, it's like, let's bring some information based on, the VA standpoint, the VA background in terms of, what they're looking for and the actual, the basis, the foundation of it all. So again, I want to thank Abron for allowing this partnership to occur, for believing in what we can do together. And we hope that you enjoyed today's training. With regards to Abron, of course, you guys all know VetBiz Central and the SBA's VBOC, serving Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Again, thank you so much, Abron, for the opportunity to be here today. And as Abron shares some of my background, I'm president and CEO of Rymys Technology Consultants. I was a subcontractor. This is important because I'm going to emphasize keywords. So these are keywords based on, for example, subcontractor to a prime. So I was a subcontractor to 3 prime SDVOSBs during the 6-year tenure. Next week's presentation and training will talk about the importance of understanding, number 1, patients, and number 2, staying the course and standing firm on being a subcontractor to primes in the government world, especially with the VA. Because there are instances that have occurred that show examples why you need to stand and understand that subcontracting is very important. Everybody wants to be the prime, but the subcontracting world is just as important as the prime, because you become an expert at that one thing. So my mission in terms of Rymys was to join different businesses and work with different companies and businesses and helping them be the one to become the one-stop shop to be able to the expert in this area. And that was key. And to be able to work with many different partners to be able to bring this information to them. So let's talk about today's lessons. And we're going to be kind of quick in a sense, but not really. We're going to go straight to the meat and potatoes. We're going to talk about a capability statement. We're going to talk about the importance of a capability statement. We're going to talk about, each section of a capability statement from the standpoint of, I'm going to ask you questions. And I'm going to ask you questions that should present and provide logical answers from yourselves in terms of what the information really means and how someone is perceiving it. So when you think for a second and say, hey, our capability statement is fantastic and it presents what we want it to, put yourself in the shoes of the reviewers, the people receiving them, the program directors, the contracting officers, the potential partnering companies. And does it say what you really need it to say and what they're looking for? And if you think back, based on an overview of a capability statement, what is a capability statement? It is no different than when we used to go for jobs when we got out of college and applied for jobs. It's no different than your resume. Your resume had key instances, but the most important thing your resume had, especially if we were starting out from scratch and had nothing, that's one thing, but it's also your experiences. So a capability statement is your company. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the basics. Then we're going to wrap up. And in between the lessons today, there's going to be some polling questions we're going to pop up. And you'll be able to see these questions. And by the end of today's training, you're going to be able to understand the definition of a capability statement, what's used for, describe the information needed. So we're going to give you some examples. And I'm even going to not only detail the 5 sections, but I'm going to share my capability statement that got me in the door with Abron in VetBiz Central. And this is a very interesting point because I have asked numerous companies I've worked with if I can share their capability statement with, as samples. And several of the companies were like, no, I don't want to. It's, top secret, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I have no problem doing that because the information you put on your capability statement is your information. So seeing an example, besides doing a Google search and finding thousands of them, seeing my capability statement isn't going to change who I am and what I do and what I'm capable of. It's going to provide you with an insight like, okay, so ours looks like this and yours looks like this and you receive this type of thing. But it's not just that. That's just one piece of the pie. But understanding that what you put on your capability statement is what is reviewed. So if it's not written correctly, if it's not presented correctly, you're not there to be able to say, hey, did you read that? Oh, did you understand that? You want them to understand that without even having to ask that. So it has to be very simply targeted. So let's talk about the capability statement. So in the handouts pane on your control center, if you click on the arrow to the left of the word handouts, it'll expand that window. You can click on it. I provided a sample PDF for you with regards to a template of a capability statement. With regards to clicking on it, it'll open it as a PDF on your desktop or your tablet or even your phone, and you'll be able to save it and use it for reference in terms of, hey, this is a capability statement, and this is what you should use as a template. Now, again, when I show you the real life experience capability statement or the one that you have, compare it to the information you have presented. Now, the other question that we have in terms of being a snapshot, and I did emphasize, and I'm emphasizing again, everyone, what is a capability statement? And the number one key here, first of all, is capabilities. So there's discrepancy, or not discrepancy, but there's 50% of government says capability with TY statement. title it this way. Or capabilities IES statement. Why is that important, or what does it really make a difference? Well, if you think about it, what is a capabilities statement? You're talking about your capabilities or capability to do something. So you have many capabilities to do something in order to provide the 5 sections. 5 sections is more than one plural. So together, the 5 sections make up the capabilities statement. So that's just a reference point. So if it's capability statement, it's more received as capabilities, but again, there'll be discussion as to who prefers what. The bottom line is that the 5 sections on the capability statement presents a snapshot, which is a company resume, business resume. Your capability statement is a business resume. We talked about, working on a college, resume, experiences, objective. Capability statement is your business's resume. It is a marketing tool that helps you market your company. It's handed to prospective clients, partners, etc., emailed, etc., or downloaded from your website, and so forth. And it presents the information that they hope to be looking for, that you hope that it presents based on your explanation of who you are, your business resume. Very key. When do you use it? Well, meetings, introductions, meeting with small business liaisons, meetings with potential teaming partners like we spoke about. I sent an email to Abron and Matt and said, hey, how you doing? I'm Tarek. Here's my capability statement. Let's talk. Here's what I'm capable of doing. I got to the meat and the potatoes. However, getting to that point was based on a relationship. So the capability statement is just one piece of it. For those of you who attended the Framework for Success webinar last week, we talked about a whole process. So your capability statement is one piece of the process, and building relationships is another piece of the process. So everything works together as one big framework. So you give the capability statement to people you meet, to companies, to potential partners, etc., because it defines who you are. And you hope the sections present the information properly. We're going to go to the first knowledge check. Just want to pop this up just to get a quick grasp of information being presented. Number 1, very simple. So take a look at your screen. Which of the following best explains what a capability statement is? What is a capability statement? I emphasized the words because of the importance of the reference of it. Please take a second here to check the right answer, and then we're going to talk about the right answer in just a second. Okay, I love the engagement of everyone being attentive to the information, so thank you. It tells us that we're doing something right. Again, we want to have fun, but we also want to teach. Okay, so I'm going to show the questions, the answers now. There you go. And what would we talked about? You have several different references to questions. How well a company does business. Not necessarily, because it doesn't give. I can understand how you may think that, how well a company does business, but it doesn't really present how good you are as it should, yes, because it doesn't say everything you've done. Now, the key about a capability statement is it targets your expertise of what you want to go after in terms of contracting. So that's one of the biggest keys there. Explanation of what business does, kind of the same thing. I wasn't trying to confuse you guys, but I was trying to emphasize the key emphasis of what it correlates to. So again, we talked about personal resume for an individual, your experience, your objectives, your achievements, etc. Let's look at E, a business resume. That's what it is. So it's your business's resume. It's about as simple as that. Based on it being a business resume, it does provide what you do explanation of the business does, and so on and so forth. But as far as what you're doing, the capability statement is a targeted document. Now, I've stood at event booths, and I've looked at hundreds in a given day, 8-hour day, hundreds of capability statements of all sizes, pages, colors, etc. We're going to talk about the next component of it, which is very important as to when you present it, what it should look like, what the importance of it is. But at least you understand that it's your resume. So if you handed a piece of paper with a resume of 3 or 4 things or just not enough information, it's hard to decide whether you're qualified to do the work. So that's a big key there. Turn this off here. Okay, so let's talk about the basis of a capability statement. Real simple. 1 to 2 pages, double-sided. You've all heard that. Now you're seeing a copy of my capability statement. Why is that important? Well, because I'm not scared that you're going to steal anything or take anything or copy anything, because again, the information I present is my information. I have that capability to present that information. It's my experience. I wanted to give you an idea of my best understanding of what I've been teaching for years as a capability statement. So it references the company name and information. So we're going to go through each section in the next section here. But when we're talking about a 1 to 2 page, double-sided if you prefer, but not required, 1 page is all you need, because you get 1 page, then you go to 2 pages, and you want to put more information and more information and more information. But what's the purpose of the capability statement? To get people to call you, to learn and understand. They want to know more about you, so you want to engage. You give them too much information, they're going to make an inference of your company without you having the ability to really speak to them. So that's key. 1 to 2 pages, double-sided. You definitely want it double-sided. Don't staple it together if you want 2 pages. Okay, double-sided when you print. Each sentence, of course, use the space wisely, because there's not enough space to keep writing long sentences. Also be visually interesting. So make it appealing, make it, a marketing tool. It's your marketing tool. We've talked about marketing. It explains how your product solves customers' problems. Now, with regards to the VA, with the government in general, but the VA, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of companies, veteran companies, non-veteran companies, that want to do business with the VA. I talk to potential clients every day. They all have the next best thing in terms of what VA is looking for. They're not veteran companies. They are veteran companies. They have this, they have that, and so on and so forth. One of the key elements we're going to talk about today are past performance and differentiators. But the most important key is explains how your product solves customers' problems or improves the situation. There are many things to take into account. For example, is there funding for the contract? Is it necessary? Can we live with what we have, or do we need something new? There's many different questions to be asked, and it all comes down to relationship building. That's a big key. We talked about it explaining how your product solves customers' problems, and it delivers a specific benefit. So the purpose of a capability statement, of course, is to talk about your expertise in one area. So I've seen capability statements, and I'm sure the guys at the VetBiz and the VBox around the country and the PTAX and so forth. I've seen capability statements with a company having 10, 15, maybe 20 NACE codes. That's just way too many. 3 max. What you're telling someone is that you're an expert at many different things, but we don't know which one exactly you're an expert at, and what the opportunity that we're talking about today that you want to go after. We have no idea what your degree of expertise is in that, because there's just too much information about everything else. So deliver a specific benefit. Tells the ideal customer why they should do business with you. So when you say, VA, do business with me in this product or this service area because we are very good. We're the best at what we do. We offer the best product solution. We have this, this, and this. We reduce risk. And of course, you present your selling position and your position of competitive advantage. And it's basically what your customer values. So always think of your customer. So again, if you have a 2-page capability statement, if you have a capability statement, go back and review it, whether it's 1 page, 2 page. Go back and review it, make it 1 page. Because you don't want to give everything per se, but you want to give the meat and potatoes that says, hey, I want to talk to this company. I want to learn more about this company. I want to make sure that we identify, what we do as a company, and I want to make sure that they understand what we're trying to convey. Because there are 2 things that a PDM, procurement decision maker, looks at. Okay, when you are not there to explain yourself or explain your company or define a situation or anything, it's your capability statement and your website. Those are the 2. That's it. So they'll look at your capability statement, and your website will be much more information, more detailed, more referenceable in that sense. But those are the 2 things. So imagine if a contracting person is looking at your website information. For those of you who are registered in the VetBiz, the CBE, the veteran system with regards to the VA, make sure that your capabilities inside that system is up to date. Make sure your capabilities in SAM are up to date. I'll give you a true story. True story is contracting officer was looking for a company to do business with in terms of the CV, the veteran database. The NACE codes weren't lined up. One in the CVE system, it said, the NACE codes were different based on its submission of, hey, we can do the work. In SAM, it was a completely different NACE code scenario there. They had to work out the process based on the targeted NACE code and knowing the NACE code. So they say, okay, we can award you a contract, but you have to do it in this NACE code. So they had to re-review the company to ensure that the company, if it was to add that NACE code to its situation, to its capability statement and say, hey, we have proof that we do this work, then it identifies as a proper company to be chosen. But you don't want that issue to come about. We just added a training that's going to be Thursday, September 30th, based on what VA buys. And we're going to talk about, and it just so happens to be the last day of the fiscal year and the day before the new fiscal year. And we're going to talk about the importance of NACE codes. So Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan especially, what does VA buy in Michigan? Well, we're going to talk about NACE codes and product service codes and making reference to the right ones that align to you. How do you find that? You find those information through data in terms of the databases of award history. Like FPDS used to provide some of that information. Okay, the awarded history. You see the NACE code. You even see the product service code. You see who the company was awarded. Information that you can use to start building relationships and really learning about the contracting world and officer, and talk to them and be part of the requirements development, which is a very positive place to be. But until then, there's a lot of information and a lot of work you have to gather and a lot of research, and that's the key. It's a lot of work. You have to know what to do and how to use that information, and that's key. But we're definitely going to look to provide as much detail of why you need to know that stuff. So we're going to jump here to another quick poll question before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the development of a capability statement. We're going to go to question 2. And on your screen, you're going to see the same thing. Why is the purpose of the capability statement? What is the purpose? I'm sorry. What is the purpose of a capability statement? Why do you need it? To reduce risk, to market a unique product or service, to outline my business capabilities, none of the above, or A, B, and C. I tried to make this one easy, everyone. I tried to make this one as not tricky as possible. But again, I wanted to see if you understood the basics of the purpose of the capability statement. Because understanding what it is, not just turning it in and saying, hey, we have a capability statement, great, but understanding the purpose. You have an objective to reach. Based on the objective, what is the purpose of this document? Okay, so I am going to show you all what. So these are the answers that we talked about. Okay, and let me go back here real quick. So we're gonna, okay, so what is the purpose of the capability statement? The purpose of the capability statement is to reduce risk. To reduce risk. Yes, it shows the capability of reducing risk. But when you talk about risk, what else does it do? To market a unique product or service. So as soon as you see a second one that looks about right as well, then you can kind of keep looking at the answers and go, okay, to outline my business's capabilities. So reduce risk. You're showing the reduction of risk by showing your capability statement. Market a unique product or service, yes, and to outline your business capabilities. So I presented the answer based on A, B, and C because I wanted you to know that there's various purposes, but it's a targeted purpose of the capability statement. So, because you got to remember, when you talk to different people about the capability statement, there's a different perception. Okay, so you want to cover all those differences into one. You want to make it one perception, that it covers all the bases. First, second, third base, home run, home plate, and that's the key. So now let's talk about the building blocks. But Adam, I wasn't sure if you wanted to chime in for a few seconds. If anyone needed a quick 2-minute break or something, conversationally, are we good to go for the home stretch here?
Why don't we?
We don't have
what? Why don't we go ahead?
Okay.
Let's keep on going. I'm pretty sure if someone needs a break, they can go ahead and do that.
That works. That works. We're about halfway done here, and we're going to get into the meat and potatoes now. So, all right. If anyone needs to take a little break or anything, just feel free to walk away and come back.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Tarek.
Yeah, fantastic. So again, everyone, I just want to remind you to click on the handouts pane of the platform. The menu items. If you click on the arrow to the left of the word handouts and expand that window, you'll see a PDF there, a template of the capability statement. And we're going to go through that template in terms of, you don't have to go through the template itself. We're going to have it on the screen, but it's a template that you can have on your desktop, of course, save and utilize it for future reference in terms of, questions, in terms of, the scenarios of how you want to use it. It has some tips on it in terms of, put this information here, put this information here. And I just want to remind you, as we go through this template, it doesn't have to look like this, okay? Be creative in terms of marketing, with your logo and your colors and so forth. But the information that it has on there, it describes you. It defines you. It presents you. That's what you can never forget, because when the VA says, we have an RFI, we want to find out if what we're thinking about is possible. Great. Then we want to have a source of sought notice and see, is there anyone out there who can do this? Well, they have an idea of who can do this by those companies that submitted responses to the RFI, because those companies who can define what solution is possible to solve a problem, and they have an idea that there's some companies out there, so they want to make sure that the companies that they look at in terms of potential award, they align with the companies that reference the RFI information. So they're looking at the information of what you present. So they're looking at you, okay? And if your capabilities do not line up with your area of expertise that you submitted this great solution, and you can manage and implement and execute this solution, and if your capability statement says nothing about that, then they're kind of questioning, like, do you understand what we need to look at from you? It's great that you sent that in, but your capability statement says nothing about any expertise in this. So you have to make sure that the information you put, it targets what you're going after. And it takes time. It's tedious. You have to build 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 capability statements. It depends on what your target is and what it says. Each one of them can be a little more different than the other. Just save the same template, change the wording, and you'll have a template to just update. But that's what you want to target, is exactly what you're going after. And that's key. So I had a moment to show you what my capability statement looked like. And again, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters what's on there. I had the 6 years of experience from the ground up researching the process and teaching the process. And I've been asked the question, well, my company is still over here in this phase. Doesn't matter where you are in the process. I can look at a capability statement and tell you, and talk to you for 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, learn a bit about your company and know, okay, you're over here, you need to do this. This is where we need to start. But I'm farther down the road. No, you're not, because of this. Well, I didn't think of it that way. Well, if you want the VA to give you a $10 million contract, you better think about it every single way, because there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross. And I'm not talking about just the simplified acquisition, threshold contracts that are up to, between 25 and 250 and 750, 500,000. No, not those. Those are good contracts, absolutely. It's the way you get your foot in the door. But I come across a lot of companies that want the big contracts. So there's a lot of work to do for those big contracts. And there's a lot of reference points that you have to make sure they know about to make sure that you're worthy of those big contracts. Even the small contracts, you have to start somewhere. So let's talk about the structure. Core competencies, past performance, differentiators, pertinent codes, and company information. Core competencies, what do you do? What is your area of expertise? What is it that, you do that references this contracting opportunity, this RFI, this source of sought notice, this RFP? What is it that you do? Past performance. Do you have any experience to prove that you've done this before? What's your experience? What have you done? I've had the $1 million question. Well, we don't have very much past performance in terms of the company, but we have past performance in terms of the management. Well, there you go. Can we use that? Absolutely. I'll give you a quick example. We're going to talk about it. I'll probably duplicate the answer in a few minutes. Quick example of past performance is you have two partners. Both of you have 47 years of experience combined. Use it. You have 47 years of experience working in the field, running the field, managing solutions in the field. What you're doing now with your company is managing people to do what you've already learned and how to do it. So there's a big difference there. Differentiators. I asked this question to many potential clients and companies. Do you know who your competitors are? Yeah, absolutely. We do. Fantastic. You do. Okay. So let's get deep down inside. What is it about your company that is different, from your competitor? Well, we offer the full range. Well, what does that mean? When was the last time you called your competitor and said, what do you offer? What do you do? What is it that you're doing that you have a contract, and why can't we get a contract? Okay, so there's different competitors. You have competitors in the commercial world, yeah. But you know who your competitors are in the federal world? Most people say no. Well, the only way to find out is to find out who's holding the contract that you want to potentially hold. So what makes you different? Do not give open-ended questions. Don't make people guess why you're different. You have to define a solution as to why you're different. You know, I'm fortunate to have the differentiator of I was the one teaching for 6 years. You know, I wasn't the one, even if, say, I was the one helping the one teaching for 6 years. But I had that unique position. So I was fortunate to be there. So you have a unique position that makes you different. And that's what you got to dig down inside, dig down deep inside and say, hey, what is it, that one thing that makes you unique? And not just your competitors in the commercial world, you have to find out who they are in the federal world, because they're the ones you're competing with. And a lot of companies don't realize that mindset until it's said straight out, point blank. Pertinent codes, that's homework. That's a lot of homework. You find your NACE code, you find your, you got to look at the previous award history, the last few years, and see who was buying what you're selling. You got to find out who the competitors are, and you got to identify, which it does based on history and reference information, the product service code that you actually are selling. And what the most important is, the buyer is buying. Because they identify the NACE code, and then they say, okay, this is the product or service code that we're buying from this, in this industry, from this vendor. That comes in handy when you try to, you try to talk to them and say, hey, let's do a J&A, justification of authority, for a sole source opportunity. That's what they do. They look at this aspect based on your NACE code, your product service code, your past performance, your differentiators. It all goes into play. This capability statement is your template, your outline for strategy of how to approach the government for business. Okay? Again, for those of you who attended the Framework for Success webinar last week, we talked about 5 areas. And while they may seem, very basic, access, awareness, risk mitigation, performance, procurement mechanisms, there's a lot to each one of them. And there are several different sub-elements that intertwine with the other areas. And this is no different. And that's a key aspect of, your capability structure. So you have to understand it. Now, when you looked at my capability statement, I'll be happy to go back and show you again. It has these 5 key areas. What information I presented is because of information I had and I gathered and I understood what makes me different, what makes my past performance, what my core competencies. I pride myself in knowing a lot of things, but when I present the capability statement to Abron and VetBiz Central and to Matt, I presented my one component that I was wanting to talk with them about, one area of expertise that I wanted to talk to them about. And that's the key. I can do marketing, I can do this, I can do that, but no, I talked to them about one key area, and that's all my capability statement did, is it talked about these 5 components based on the structure, and I really emphasized. And the one key thing I'll emphasize over and over, we're going to talk about this in just a second. We should go into it actually with regards to the core Okay, we're going to talk about the sections in a second, but when you write a capability statement, be prepared to write, rewrite, edit, rewrite, and rewrite. And did I mention rewrite it? Keep writing and writing and writing each sentence, each phrase. Because you're going to make it shorter, you're going to make it more aligned, and you're going to think of something else. Do a data dump. And that one expertise. That's the key. So if you have 3 major expertise, you have 3 capability statements. Okay, let's talk about the core competencies. The core competencies we're talking about with regards to subject matter expert, technical expertise, distinct processes, etc. A core competency is basically a unique factor. What's your specialty? We do this, and we do this. Fantastic. That's your core competency. Can you back it up? Sounds great. Encompasses company experience, creates sustainable competitive advantage. It's what you're good at, right? It's the question that referenced, what are you good at? Based on like the same question of, do you know what differentiates you from your competition? Core competency says this is what we focus on. We make back braces. We make DNA testing kits. We make this kind of solution, or we make this. We have an IT, telehealth platform that does a unique, sustainable process of all doctors and nurses and staffing. We include this, this, and this. Okay, that's where your differentiators come in. But that's your core competency. What is it that you do? And you make sure everything that follows is what basically substantiates and defines and prove it. It's my core competency. Well, what's your backup? Can you back that up? Are you good? What do you do? What makes you different? That's what the capability statement is. So we build the capability statement as an outline of strategy. Core competencies, writing strategies. Every single one's going to have a writing strategy component. Okay, analyze your operations. Revisit your company. What does it do? Are you absolutely positive this is what you do? Yes. Okay, simplify. Figure out what your unique capabilities are or offerings. If we do this part with regards to the VA, or we want to go after this type of contract with the VA in this industry, so your NACE code, okay, great. This is what we want to solve. So you have an objective. Your core competency accomplishes an objective. That objective is a solution to the VA. That's my key point. You have to piece these things together. And it's not easy because you're not trained to think that way. You have 24 hours in a day and you need 30 to complete work and tasks and processes and phone calls and emails. And before you know it, the day's over and it's already Friday. So you just have to understand the play on words and working with the writing strategies. So you have to write based on your capabilities and what you offer.
Hi, Tarek.
Yes, sir.
Hey, just jumping in here. We actually have a question from Matt. Okay. How does a new startup relate past performance related to corporate contracting work? Is past performance in the private sector viewed the same as government contracting work?
That is a great question. Thank you both. Yes, this question's come up a million times. I don't have past performance. Are you sure? Well, okay, you were in the Army, you were in the Navy, Air Force, etc. You did this for 7 years, yes? And you're going into this line of work, which basically encompasses everything you've learned in the past. Yes? Then you do have past performance. Because again, I emphasize that your past performance is all your experience. Okay, even if you haven't done it in the contracting world of the government, you've done it in the commercial or private sector, or for yourself as an employee of a company. So I often get asked the question, how many contracts have you gotten with companies or clients right now? And I often go back to the same answer. Well, for 6 years, my focus was not getting companies contracts because I'd get fired, I'd get reprimanded, etc. if I was a favorite to one company as opposed to the other. My focus was training companies from the ground up to do business with the VA and the federal government. Now I coach that process. So you know where to get it, you know where to do it, you know how to process it, you know how to follow it, you know how to questions to ask, questions to answer, etc. The whole process. Past performance is no different. You've done work for a company. You're an expert at what you do. When you start a company doing that expertise, guess what? You know the ABCs and XYZs of that area, of expertise, of that work. So when you hire people to do the work, you know solutions to issues and problems that arise. You know how to handle it, how to solve them, how to implement solutions, and so forth. So when you start a company based on the experience that you've already learned, you know how to do it. Because you know how to manage people as to what your outcome is, what your objective is. And your objective is the solution that they're looking for. So whether you have past performance, you have to ask yourself, what experiences do you have based on what you want to do as a business? If you're a startup, you have experience. You work. There are times that people do a startup with no experience. At that minimum point, you have to dig deep to management skills. You have to dig deep to projects management skills, you have the marketing skills, all the different skills you have. And do you have enough experience using those skills to implement as experience in doing what you want to do as a company? So there's different questions, and every time you ask yourself a question, you have to be honest with the answer. Because remember, it would be more prudent and more worthwhile and trusting to tell to a commercial, contracting person, etc., and say, listen, I'm interested in going down this path. And I've talked to doctors at procurement conferences in Washington, D.C., or employees of companies saying, I'm about to start my own company in this. I've been doing this for 17 years and I want to do my own company. Thank you for letting me know and being honest. Or I have no, information about this. I'm thinking about this. Sometimes I get the question, does the VA buy what I would be selling if I was to start my own company? Well, sir, ma'am, that's called research. That's a great question that every company that's going after a contract is trying to answer. And if you're willing to do the homework and willing to do, to learn where to go get this information, I'd be happy to tell you. I'll send you the email with the links and so on and so forth. But again, it comes down to how much time do you have? So it's just a matter of doing that. So writing strategies based on wherever you are in the process, a startup, you've had experience in the commercial world, and now you're going to the professional, to the commercial, the government world. The question is risk. It comes down to risk. What did you do experience-wise that tells me, substantiates your core competencies, what you want to accomplish, what your business does, and how do you back it up? There's got to be something. So it doesn't matter where you start, where it begins, your expertise, just write it down on paper. And from that moment on, you're going to start thinking of things you never would have thought of before. You'll be like, oh, I remember I did that. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. So I hope I answered the question in terms of, I tried not just a general answer, but an answer based on being trustworthy and honest to yourself in terms of, what you want to do as a company and what experience you truly have. If you go with the company, if you go with experience, and then you go with skills and achievements. You kind of look at those as part of experience as well. Now, once you have everything that you think you have, then you start writing, and you ask yourself, you think VA would trust me with a $25,000 contract? I mean, probably, depending on how you approach them in the situation, because a $25,000 contract is basically a simplified acquisition threshold contract. And I just want to emphasize, ladies and gentlemen, that the simplified contracts are basically those, set aside in a sense for veteran companies. That's what they try to do when it comes to the VA in that sense. So that's what they try to do. They minimize the procedures and the regulations they go through to award those types of contracts, but they try to set them aside for veteran companies. But again, if there's no company that can actually provide the scenario, then it turns into an open type of contract. I hope that answered the question, Adam, in terms of, as much as possible.
Yes, it did. He said thank you.
Okay, perfect. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I may see some, I may repeat myself a couple times, so just I'll go through the information quickly when we get to differentiators and past performance here. So the core competencies is basically, just what you do. Okay, make sure you write the unique capabilities or offerings as to what you want to, what problem you want to help the VA or the government solve. That's your area of expertise. You have patients with chronic back pains. We make back braces. It's that simple. You make something to solve a problem, and you now got to convince them that you are the company to buy these braces from. That's the biggest thing. Have someone review your capability statement just to take a look and give you feedback. I worked with clients before or companies at the VA. I kept giving back, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I kept reviewing and sending it back and saying, listen, you got to try. You got to try. You keep changing one thing and then sending it back to me. I'm not going to write your capability statement for you. Okay, I'm going to give you a template because there's no one who knows your business better than you. You just got to understand the 5 key areas. That's the key. Core competencies. Let's talk about past performance. We've talked about this, so I'm not going to harp on it. List it either in, you can list it, you can make a narrative, etc., how you want to do it. When you do it, let me emphasize this. Do not put logos of companies and agencies that you've worked with in the past and just say, these are the companies I work with. To be honest with you, no one cares. Because you just open up a can of, you're going to make me guess with which department and what you did and what you accomplished and what you achieved. I mean, that's not right. It's not a guessing game. You're going after a contract. Tell them what you did. It details your small business's experience and expertise. Okay? List your clients and the work you've completed with them and for them. Prioritize your information based on relevancy to the project scope. Do not put something, past performance of something you did that has nothing to do with the contract or the situation you're going after. Okay, you can either list it as a bullets or a narrative describing what you did and for whom. So when I submitted my capability statement to Abraham, it said, you know, hey, I worked at the VA OSDBU, which he knew of, the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, VA. And for 6 years, I taught this, and I was the lead analyst who did the research and developed this and this and this, and I was the lead trainer who did this, this, and this. And I trained over 7,000 businesses in that time frame. So I accomplished something. The mission was this. This was the development of something. This is what we needed to do. Their target was 2,000, 3,000. They never thought they would train over 7,000 businesses. But they saw how I guess you could say how rudimentary it became, because it was the same scenario to me, but the same thing it should say to you. The process is the same. There's nothing secret about it. It's a process, and it takes time. You want to skip corners, you want to skip pieces, you want to skip this, you want to say you do it yourself, do it this, I can do it, so forth. I've come to those companies 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, and they're still struggling with the same introductory steps that they struggled with a year before, because they just don't have the time to really understand and implement. When you start down this path, you take away your time from everything else. And it's key to have the right people in place. Capability statement, past performance. Write down everything you've done, from skills and achievements, back in, not working for any company, but working for a company, to what you did at the company, to commercial world, to government world. And if you don't have certain things, just write down what you've written. And that's a big piece. And then substantiate 1, 2, and 3. For this company, we did this, and this was the solution. This is what the outcome was. For this agency, we did this, and this is what the outcome was, and so forth. Because here's the key. When you write down pieces of like that, it's going to intrigue the officer, the program director, to say, hey, I want to learn more. So you did that for this company, for this agency? That's fantastic. I want to learn more. It's going to prompt them to call so they can do due diligence and say, hey, Mr. Contracting Officer, we're going to have some companies that are going to be, take a look at these companies that are going to be presenting for your RFI or your RFP. Because we want these companies, to have fair shot, but we're bringing these to your radar. Contracting Officer will say, well, there were other companies that were more this, that, or the other thing. Or these companies are fantastic. We help them do the due diligence in terms of the type of awards and contracts they want to do. So it's key. List everything in past performance. The other major piece, when we've talked about this, the client situation or need, the resolution you provide, the solution, and the value your company added. So when you describe your past performance, write those things. It's about what you did for them. You got to tell the company, the future client, hey, we've done this. We can do this in our sleep. And when there are problems, and we know there are problems, guess what? We've solved them. Here's how we solve them. We can solve them immediately. I witnessed a company who was losing staff, and they had a problem hiring more staff to fill positions when it's needed. Well, if you're a staffing company and you need to staff, or you're not a staffing company, but if you're a project management company and you want to implement solutions for a client and you can't bring the staff in to do that, something's wrong. So you're putting yourself in a position that you couldn't fulfill the requirements, because the requirement was putting people in the seats and having them do the work. So that's a big piece of it. So make sure that you can solve problems. Let's talk about differentiators, which we've done before. Differentiators are a unique feature or benefit or product or service that your small business offers potential customers. What is it that you do? On the template, again, I just highlighted quickly, where it is on the section. So you just say, okay, this is what it does. Do not do open-ended questions and make people guess why you're different than your competitors. Number one. Number two, you know your competitors in the commercial world, but you have no clue who your competitors are in the government world. Make sure you find out who they are, because they're the ones you're competing with. It's possible your competitor has a contract already. Had a call yesterday from a potential client was saying, hey, I work with this company and I sold this to the government. But, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. It was through this company who had a subcontract through this company who had the prime contract with the VA. So, oh, okay. Well, that's a big piece of the pie. So if you want to compete with that, you at least know who your competitors are, which is a fantastic thing to know and be a position to be in. So know your who your different are, know your competitors, commercial and federal. How do you find out who your federal competitors are? By understanding your capability statement, your NACE codes, your product service codes, who has contracts, who's been awarded. It's numbers, it's data. So again, we're going to give a brief, a detailed look at purchasing who buys what in Michigan, September 30th. And that webinar is going to cover some basics of data and using the new sam.gov, kind of like where the FPDS is rolled in, some basic information. Just going to give you a quick overview in terms of finding data, but as far as doing your homework, that's definitely on you to do your homework. But it's in the FPDS, the new FPDS through sam.gov. Data. It's running reports, it's seeing some information. And while at times it may not give you all the information you need, you have to run different reports and queries and so forth. So it's a little bit of work, but it definitely helps identify some of the information. Are there easier ways? Of course, but there are different ways, and it's all contingent to the time you have. But why is that important? Because data drives decisions. Good data drives good decisions. So differentiators, differentiate yourself. When writing differentiators, we talked about explain your company is unique, different, and distinct. Define and explain needs of your clients and why your firm is better positioned than others to respond to these needs. Do not say we're better. Because the second you say that, the next question is going to be like, why? And if you can't answer it except because we are, then you don't know what's out there. Because then you're going to open up yourself to questions like, well, we're working with so-and-so and they can do this. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. And then we just started implementing this, and this. Oh, really? I didn't know they do that. Then you're setting yourself up for not knowing your competition and not knowing what's out there. And how can you help us when we are already working with someone who can do a million things more? So what really makes your product unique or you unique or so forth? And that's key. So careful what you say and how you say it, and you better be able to back up who you are, what you do, your past performance, and what makes you different. And I've asked this question again, I'll ask it again. Do you know who your competitors are in the federal world? It's a big question. So we're going to go to corporate data, very simple, your company, address information, etc. If you have more than one location, put two. East Coast, West Coast, show them that you have, different, you have locations elsewhere. So you have, if we get a national contract or a regional contract, you can handle any situation from either office or either situation. And that's key. Locations, phone numbers, make sure you put your phone numbers. And I've heard Pac say this a million times on his Doing Business with VA, procurement readiness webinars with regards to email addresses. Make sure you put a contact person who you want them to call you, a person, not a robot answering service, and the email address. Because the email address, not Yahoo, AOL, and so forth, it's at mycompany.com. Because 99% of the time they usually go to, spell your web address. Sometimes people forget to put their website address on there. But what they'll do is they'll take the end of the email and they'll put it in Google and pull up the website and start looking. But make sure it's not a Yahoo or email or Hotmail or type of thing. It's got to be a company address. Don't even think, oh, they won't care. Believe me, it's one of the first things they notice, and it says, wow, they're still working in Gmail. Sometimes I get people who sign up, just for a discussion, and they say, Gmail. I'm like, really? Well, yeah, it's my company. It's, I didn't put my company because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And okay, well, I have no idea who you are or what I can find out about you, but that's fine. Put your company. Don't neglect that. Okay, everything about it. Phone number, direct person. Hey, I'm Matt, I'm Aaron, I'm Tarek, etc. Call me. For sure. Okay, corporate data writing strategies. Similar to the other ones. Keep writing. When writing your corporate data, just be sure to include the simple, like I said, locations, relevant, codes, and so forth. We're going to get to that in a second. Web address, don't forget your web address. Social media, that's fine. Can they find you on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc.? And of course, accolades and certifications. That's different than the codes. We're going to get to in a minute. Obviously SDVOSB is going to be out right there on the logo with your logo, company information. The top of the page, wherever, as soon as they see VOSB or SDVOSB logo, they know that you're a VA verified SDVOSB, VOSB. Women-owned small business. I've talked to companies now. You have to make sure you identify the difference, because I've talked to companies who are like, oh yeah, we're a women-owned small business in Chicago. Okay, have you gone through the Women-Owned Small Business Program, the SBA? What's that? Well, the SBA program is nationally recognized through all agencies as a small business concern. The fact that you're a women-owned small business through the Chamber of Commerce in Chicago, Illinois, it's a good thing. It's a good start, but it's not nationally recognized. Well, I didn't know, okay? And if you're a women-owned small business, do you understand about the economically disadvantaged women-owned small business concerns? Well, what's that? Well, there's 216 NACE codes dedicated just to that small business concern. Really? Yeah, so if you work in a NACE code, if your company offers products or services in that area of being an economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, guess what? You jump to the front of the line. You just got to be able to do the work, fulfill the requirements, be able to achieve it, be low risk, etc. But that puts you in the front of the line of a lot of different things. So there's key. Make sure your data and information is right. Make sure you know what to get. And when building your capability statement, think about it. Can you go to the SBA and start your application for 8A or women-owned, hub zone, etc.? Start these processes. They take time. They're tedious. They require a lot of documentation, but they're worth every second spent. Once you get that designation, then you have to know what to do with it and how to present it. Pertinent codes, again, we talked about data. We talked about data. I don't know how many times Abron or Adam or any man is talking about data. Not day-to-day activities, I'm talking about data. One of the things I work with the Small Business Office at VA is I work with the data team. Because without them, I wouldn't have known anything. Because there's an office that buys things and there's an office that funds things, or an agency that funds those projects. There is expenditures. There are, the products that are purchased. What are the top 100? What are the top, 1,500? What are the top 25? etc. Well, without data, the data referenced who's buying what, where, because you can do place of performance. This contract was awarded in Michigan for $727,000, and there was a subcontracting plan, and there were 3 subcontractors added to that contract. This is the NACE code that was signed to, and this is the product service code that we had purchased based on what we needed, whether it be education, whether it be copiers, whether it be whatever, Dell computers, it doesn't matter. There is a process, and data doesn't lie. And that's why data is so important. When contracting officers do their homework with regards to are these companies eligible, they go to SAM. Okay, so for VA concern, they go to VetBiz database. Okay, they look at all the SDVOSBs, the active SDVOSBs, VOSBs. If you go there now, there's about 14,000 plus. And about 4,000 of them, 3,000 of them, I'll say strongly, have contracts. The other ones don't. Why? Well, because it's the way they present themselves. Okay, they'll be. I mean, you look at this. You look at the descriptions. There's like 14 NACE codes. Okay, so they're trying to present themselves this way or present themselves this way. We've heard SDVOSBs, VOSBs become very discouraged because, like, hey, why should I get registered? You know, I've been updating this and I've been renewing this and I'm not getting any contracts. Well, what are you doing? Well, you know, I go shake a hand and, you know, I get nothing. Well, it's not about shaking hands. So you got to be there. You got to be like a second name to these people. You got to, hey, Tarek, how you doing? You know, hey, good to see you. Yeah, understood. You know, you're looking at this. Okay, great. There's meetings. You got to find them. No one's going to come to you and say, hey, I got an opportunity for you. You want to come to the, you know, pre-opportunity meeting so you can learn more about it? No, you got to find them. And you find them through codes. Okay? DUNS number, everyone knows what that is. It's also going to be changing in the next year or two with regards to the different universal numbering system for your company identity. It's going to be done automatically for those who have DUNS numbers, but there'll be more information as that comes to fruition. Cage code, you have a cage code, you're registered in SAM. You'll be looked upon in SAM. So companies will, you know, the cores, the program directors, etc., will do their homework. So they'll do their homework. They'll look in the CVE, the VetBiz system. They'll look in SAM. They'll make sure you're up to date. They'll make sure, you know, NACE codes align, the capabilities align. I mean, I've seen information in the CVE database for veteran companies. It's half empty. I mean, this is your time to shine, man. Tell them who you are. You know, this is the first place they look at because of the rule of 2. So you're only hurting yourself by not making sure your capability statement per se in the VetBiz database is not up to date. Product service codes, etc. National Institute and Government NIGP codes. Those are like state and local government codes. If you have them, use them. I mean, if you've done work for the state government, then you have an idea of government work, and that also helps, you know, move things along. Gets you recognized. Gets a phone call. Gets an email. Gets, you know, conversation. And that's key. So these are the components of a capability statement. I could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on each one of them and why and where the database and so on and so forth comes from. But I wanted to give you the backbone of the structure and how these codes are reviewed based on a contracting officer or, you know, the program directors, et cetera, how they research them. So with regards to VA and any other federal agency. But as far as VA, they go to VetBiz. They do the database search in terms of SDVOSBs, VOSBs, and then they do the alignment of the NACE codes and the capabilities which are in there, and they look at SAM. So it's a lot of information to be updated, but make sure everything cross-references your capability statement, your website, this, and this. Everything is rudimentary and in line. Don't leave it hanging. Okay, importance of a capability statement. It's a required document for becoming procurement ready. What does it mean, required document? Why did I put required document? Some people say, I got a contract without a capability statement. Well, then you got a really good situation then going in a small area and you got a contract, that's fantastic. The person must have known you and so forth. But as far as procurement readiness, it's very important in becoming really to show them, hey, you know what you're doing. Because again, it's your outline. It's an important document that allows you to market and promote your business. Never lose an opportunity to promote your business. We're going to go to the next question. And these next 2 questions are going to be back to back here because it's going to talk about differentiators and past performance. Okay. Okay. Alex is completing a capability statement for Zenith Inc. In which section does information regarding the business's past work experience go? I expect 100% on this one. There is only one right answer here. In which section does information regarding the business's past work experience go? Come on, everybody, click. Okay. A few more seconds and we're going to close it out. So far, so good. I'm happy. All right, we're going to close it out and we're going to share the results. There you go. Everyone said past performance, exactly. In which section does information regarding your business's past performance go? In the past performance section. Do not put logos. Do not put logos. Put what you did and what you solved. What was achieved. Because that tells people, hey, you know what you're doing. I'm going to go to the next question because it's going to be part of this process. Okay, we're talking about differentiators here. Okay, here we go. The purpose of the differentiator section on a CAPE statement is what we use short sometimes for capability statement, is to do what? The purpose of the differentiator section on a CAPE statement is to do what? Show similarities, reference a specific past performance, align you with your competition, none of the above. Which one? Honestly, in this one, there's only one right answer. What is the situation? What is the purpose of a differentiator in this section? Okay. All right, I'm going to close it out and I'm going to show you guys something very nice. Yes, you got it. Separate you from the competition. Absolutely. Do you know who your competition is in the federal arena? Those are the questions you need to answer. Data, data, data. If, like the person I spoke to yesterday who said, yeah, I used to work for a company that had contracts with the VA through this company, then you're fortunate to have that connection of you worked for a company that did it through it as a sub, and that was key. So just, you got to know. You got to know who it is. You got to know who it is and who you're competing against so you understand, what your strategy is. And data and information and processing information, strategic development is not a 5-minute phone call. It's a process that takes time. I once had a conversation with Abram, and I said, Abram, I talk to potential clients. They always ask me the question, how long is it going to take to get a contract? Well, I said, I can talk to them and say, okay, usually between a contract, getting you in front of the right people, between 3 and 12 months. So, I mean, you're brave. Usually it takes 2 to 3 years, 4 years, and I know it does. But the key is if you're eligible to compete and your capability statement, which is your outline, is aligned with procurement readiness, you're in a position to start meeting and building relationships. Picking up the phone and saying hello, introducing yourself, submitting to an RFI is the process. Could an opportunity arise after the first time you say hello? It's possible. There's nothing that says you can't get one. But there's everything that says, are you procurement ready? And are you eligible to compete? And do you know who your competitors are? So who you're up against and moving forward and so on and so on and so on. So there's a process to go through. But if you put yourself in a corner and say, hey, I'm going to do it within 5 months and then I'm going to quit the government space and not ever do it again, then you're just hurting yourself. Because it takes time to build relationships. It took me 6 years to get to here we are today. and last week, and the first phone call with Abron. Would it have happened 2 years ago? Maybe. But it was a different world. It was a different situation. It was a different time. There was no pandemic. There was no this, but we were still training and we were still doing webinars and things like that. So you just don't know. You can't really confirm or ask that question based on the scenario. You just have to go forward and you have to be ready and patient. And understand the expectations takes time. But if you're following a process efficiently and effectively, the right way from the start, then you're going to get there sooner. Capability statement and procurement readiness, one goes with the other. Your capability statement is your outline to becoming procurement ready. Because the information that defines your core competencies, past performance, differentiators, pertinent codes, and company information is all right there. And as you assemble it and put it together, you're going through the process of becoming procurement ready. Each code, each inference, each NACE code, etc., is part of the process. So I'll just say, I'll reference the procurement readiness reference guide because it was the A to Z of being procurement ready. And while it defines a lot of information based on becoming procurement ready, it's a process and it's not easy. But it's a foundation. So the procurement readiness guide is the foundation of the process, but it's not easy. Capability statement is a huge part of that process, and that's not easy just to write and submit it because you're going to second guess yourself every time, not knowing, oh my God, is this what they want to see? Did I write it right? Does it make sense when they read it? You have to demonstrate the ability of your businesses effectively participate in the federal government world. You have to be procurement ready. If you're a veteran company, become VA verified as an STVOSB, VOSB. Don't wait around. And I've talked to some potentials that, hey, I never thought of the process or going through the process. And, are you a veteran? Yes, I am. Do you want to be, disabled? Well, I haven't started that process. Well, listen, you can start getting veteran-owned small business status, start that process. And when you do the disability rating and you get that process, you can always upgrade the company to a STVOSB, but at least start the process of VOSB. Put yourself in a better position. Keep capability statement current, keep company website current, register with federal websites, and build relationships. Build relationships and build relationships. Everything leads to relationships. So now you should be able to define what a capability statement is and why it is used, describe the information needed in order to write a capability statement, and detail the 5 sections of a capability statement. And that's the goal. So you know the foundation. It's a matter of answering those questions that you have, like, hey, did I write the right stuff? Did I define the right stuff? Am I saying this right? Is there too much information? Is there too little information? Where should I put the logos here? Should I include this, not include this? Do I put that? So forth. So there's a lot of questions. But at least now you know these core concepts. And that's the key of the training. There's always a foundation. From that foundation, it's up to you to build forward. So based on that, there's some info here just to kind of grasp with regards to website, Rymys, doing business with VA reference guide and procurement readiness reference guide. I'm always positive about going and get those guides because they help you, they help you start preparing strategy, understanding what strategy can come. And that was the key, to provide you the basics to show you what to expect, and the process, you just have to start going through the process. Although time consuming, that's what we do. Learn more about VetBiz Central if you've not interacted with the Veteran Business Outreach Center with Abron, Matt, and Adam. Definitely go to the website and learn more there about them as well. And with regards to upcoming webinars, we finished today. Thursday, we talked about building an effective capability statement. So next week, we're going to talk about primary contract holders versus subcontractors. I know you've heard it before. You've absolutely heard it before, but what you haven't heard are the struggles and the persistence, and you have to stand your ground arguments, because I'll tell you what, there are a lot of primes who used to be subs who at one point want to give prime contracts or give subcontracting contracts, and at the same time, they want to eliminate subcontracts from the contract or just work with specific ones because they have a relationship. There are times when companies came to me and said, we want you as a W-2 employee. I said, no way, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Not going to happen. Well, that's what we want. Well, you go tell the director that you don't want me anymore because you want me to be a W-2 employee as opposed to subcontractor, while I'm giving training to thousands of companies telling them that prime subcontracting is a strategy. Who made you capable of changing the rules and regulations of the federal acquisition regulations and the VA acquisition regulations? Well, okay, you win. Sometimes you get pushback, and it's the frustrating piece because you get nervous, you don't know, it's the unknown. But when you hold your ground and understand that not just the prime contractors, but the subcontractors, there's business in it for you, and you have just as much right being a subcontractor as a prime contract holder. And not all of them are like that, but I'm just giving you an example of sometimes the situations do get tough. Nothing's easy. It's like the bands or the musics or the athletes or somebody, when they go after something, they don't win the gold because, they just started practicing last week. It's a process. And you don't give up. You keep going. And you have to make the decision as to whether or not you want to keep going. And that's the key. That's a big key. So with regards to primary contract holders and subcontractors, we're going to talk about a lot of good stuff next week. And again, as noted, just announced who is buying in Michigan. So we're going to talk about that in terms of a little bit of data. And this is going to be a very rudimentary foundation, but it's going to give you a start. There's a lot to talk about based on that and how to get there and how to use the information and what questions to ask and what answers to look for, how to process the answer that you get, understanding it. I mean, there's a lot of information. But we're going to start with the foundation of who is buying in Michigan and how to start using that mindset as understanding the importance of data to make decisions, to make good decisions. And that's the key. You'll get more emails and references to registration. I'll be posting to the LinkedIn Rymys with regards to the events. So definitely, when you say you're going to go and accept, please you have to click on the link for the go to and register. Saying you're going to attend and not registering does not save you a seat. And we have a lot of great attendance today and for all our webinars. So just want to make sure that you understand that. Contact information, Rymys, and I'm going to send the PDF to Abraham. We're going to send it out to you guys too, so you'll get a copy of the PDF and the presentation, recordings, and so forth. So we'll definitely prepare and put that together for you. You'll have contact information. Get in touch with us if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. And aside from that, Abraham, I wanted to just turn it over to you and Matt or Adam with regards to if anyone has any questions and go from there.
Well, Tarek, once again, I want to thank you for a great webinar. Lots of good, insightful information that can, assist not only us, our clients, in helping them to understand, helping them to be able to build the foundation, helping to, more than anything, set their expectations.
Absolutely. As
to what's to come, which is very important. Because, when you start out on something, we're all looking for, an outcome. And the outcome isn't always there. But attending webinars like this and those to come helps to set, our clients' expectations on, how long may this take, or how long may that take, or what do I need to do here, what do I need to do there, step-by-step process that helps you to minimize a lot of that anxiety, when it comes to, you trying to figure out, why am I not moving, or why isn't this happening, or why isn't that happening? Then after that, the frustration builds.
Yep.
So very insightful. I appreciate it. I know our clients appreciate it as well. Yes, and of course, we'll make sure that our clients get, a copy of the slides and a link to the recording. Now that we've worked out, a lot of those bugs, all they have to do is reach out to Adam, and Adam will get those to them.
Fantastic. And I'll send you a copy of the PDF so we can send them to the attendees today. And,
Okay.
In the future, what I can do, Abron, too, is give you a PDF copy that we can also upload into the handout so they can have a copy right then and there.
All right.
Thanks.
Well,
All right, Tarek, one last comment is Matt wanted to say thank you. Thanks for great information today. Very helpful. Just want to make sure I give that positive feedback there.
Thank you. Again, and everyone, attendees, there's going to be a survey you're going to receive. So please take the survey, because that survey is going to help us understand if the information is relevant to what you want to learn, if it makes sense, if it's presented correctly, and of course, if there's more information you want that we haven't taught, kind of thing. So please take the survey and let us know how we're doing, so we know what to present and get better as we go along.
I agree, 100%.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
We'll give them one more opportunity. For those of you that are still with us, if you have any questions or concerns, I'm unmuting everyone. So if you do have any questions, now's the opportunity. Mics are all undone.
If mics are live, anyone has a question, feel free to dump it in.
Yes, my name is Anthony Thompson. This question is for Tariq. Tariq, are we able to reach out to you directly? I believe your information is on the PDF. Reach out to you directly for some of your consulting services.
Absolutely. I'm definitely available to discuss any options or any concerns you have, or and talk further about opportunities and options.
Okay, I'll reach out to you.
Thank you so much for that. And again, I'll be providing Aaron and Adam the PDF copy of the presentation today, so you guys have copies of the information. And any questions? Hey, Tarek, you said this, and you have this on the slide, but how is that relevant to me? Well, let me tell you how it's relevant to you. Let me learn about you for a few minutes, understand your pain point, and then we'll talk about how this relates to this. So, but again, Aaron, I want to thank you for a wonderful opportunity. Again, I emphasize in next week's presentation, we're going to talk about the Prime Sub and really digging deep. And like I said, here we are 6 years later. So it does take time, and the importance of understanding the Prime Sub relationship and really pressing forward on that.
Yep. And I do have to say this, when it comes to pursuing contracting opportunities, it's all about the relationship, and the 7 years or the 6 years or the time that we're talking about we're just using that as an example. Things can happen different for each one of you. So just remember this, it takes time to build a relationship. It takes time to build trust, and remember, a lot of what you say and do will happen through other relationships.
Exactly.
A lot of what you do will happen through other relationships. It may be someone that introduces you to someone that will get you to where you need to be. So remember, it's a constant daily grind when it comes to getting to the person that you need to get to. And it can happen in a lot of indirect ways. So always be open to those opportunities. Always have your eyes open, eyes and ears.
Definitely. And again, we'll talk next week more about that instance with regards to the Prime Sub. But my last note is, even when calling like the Veteran Canteen Service, for example, to present a product or service on behalf of the company that does a certain product or service that is more retail oriented, There's a whole process for that. The bottom line is to what Abron is saying is that, I had to call 5 or 6 times and, kind of get, like, hey, I've left messages and I've done this and I'm calling to learn more about doing business with your services, but I'm not getting a call back. Mr. Marabo, we're so sorry. Here's the person you need to talk to. Immediately you got someone back. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, they knew me and they were ignoring me. No, but it takes persistence to get that person on the phone. And when you do, then the niceties, the pleasantries of the emails and the conversation starts. But you gotta work to get to that point. That's the key.
I agree. All right. Well, once again, Tarek, thank you so much. We will be talking, doing our usual follow-up. We'll try to do that later on this afternoon. I've got a pretty busy schedule. Worst case scenario, we'll touch bases tomorrow, if not later on today, and we'll start working on next week's event.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for joining today.
Thanks a lot, Tarek. Everyone take care, and thank you for attending.
Thank you so much, everyone.